Hey guys, welcome to episode 8 of Rap Drinks. I'm your host, Stefan. I'm here with Bert, and our guest today is coming to us over the Atlantic Ocean in Belgium. His name is Jordy. He has a really popular YouTube channel called cinecom.net, which talks about a lot of tutorial videos. Jordy, thanks for coming on the show.
Hey guys, thank you for having me. I'm super excited. I've got tons of stories to share. So
it's like you're ready to go with all the shitty rig stories right off the bat.
I'm completely ready. I got my beer right here, a very special Belgian beer. Like if you ask for a pinch, if you go to a cafe here, we all say, give me a pinch, and we basically just do this. We show our pinky finger, and that means give me a pinch, a beer. And that is always a Jupiler. So this is a very famous beer.
So is that like a thing? Like I know for us, when we do like the check, we always go like this for the check. Is it, if you just go like this into a bar, do they give you a pinch?
I'm kind of jealous of that.
They give you a pinch.
I'm drinking something from Maryland today. I have to have this shipped to my house. It's a little harder.
All right. So thanks for coming on the show today. We're really excited to have you. We want to do things a little bit differently. I know you know, a lot of the popularity with your YouTube channel has come for the tutorials you make with VFX and special and what am I saying here? VFX and editing tutorials, and a lot of that stuff is really cool. But we're really interested in Jordy, the content creator, and how you started and got into film and TV and creating art. Right. So let's take it from your work in commercial, working as a camera operator, I believe.
Yeah. When I graduated from film school, I immediately started as an independent filmmaker. That basically just means freelancing as a camera guy, or doing some editing jobs, a little bit of VFX here and there, on very small productions, like usually those, you know, low budget commercials and corporate films. Like that was the stuff that I started out with. But I learned a ton of, I learned so much doing that because those productions were so small. I was also able to do many different tasks. Like there was nobody telling me, hey, you can only touch that light and nothing else. I was able to do like tons of stuff. I was able to bring my ideas into those videos because they were so low budget. And that was something that I had much interest in. I didn't want it to be one. I didn't want it to have like one specific job at a set where I wasn't able to touch something else or tell somebody else to do something or something. So I really enjoyed doing that, which is very different than what other people at film school did.
Just for reference, how long ago was this? So we can have like an idea of like what kind of gear.
Yeah,
and stuff
this was, I graduated in 2012.
Okay.
The summer of 2012. So that's, wow, 11 years ago.
Yeah, it sucks to think about. I'm a year ahead of you, and I think the same thing all the time.
How'd you get those jobs when you're coming into commercial? When you graduated school, film school, did you already have an in, or were you like, you know, hustling around trying to find that connection?
Well, from my internship, I did get to know a few production companies. So I had a few names, and whenever they looked for someone, they would call me because I was very cheap at the time. But I also noticed that you're not just a creative person, you're also a business manager. And even if you're just a solo guy, you know, you're also a business guy. So I had to go to these network events and sell myself, which was very weird and very new. I had no experience with that. So I had to talk and say like, hey, I can make very good corporate films. And I had to talk directly as well to like local bakeries, you know, or local stores or someone, or like a carpenter, and tell them, hey, you need a corporate movie and I want to shoot that, you know?
Yeah.
So,
did you feel confident in your ability to shoot that? Or were you more like, I'm like, you know, someone tells you, can you do this? And you're like, yeah, I can do that. And you just kind of just say, and then you go home and like research and
fake it
till you make it, basically. How did you go about that?
Well, I was actually fishing for the small clients back then, and the competition were people who had no experience. So they just picked up a camera and started making corporate movies. And I had the experience of 3 years going to film school. So I felt confident doing the stuff what I was doing. I didn't felt confident to work for agencies who usually worked for bigger clients. Like there, I was a little bit scared because they expected more. Definitely, if the budget became bigger,
Yeah.
then I got a little scared.
So when you're doing these events and you're doing some of these shoots, what was your starting package? Like, what did you start with equipment wise? What did you have available to you when you were going to do these shoots?
Well, this was at the time where the Canon 5D and the 7D just came out. Incredible cameras. All of a sudden, you had HD footage in a very small body, very affordable. And so that was what I was shooting with, the Canon 5D at the time. And I would suddenly learn about all of these accessories like rigs, like those rods, 15mm rods, and you could add a follow focus to it. And you had these grip handles and then like a counterweight, an external monitor. I was suddenly learning all of that stuff that existed. And unfortunately, it was super expensive. So my first rig was something that I just built myself. I had a friend whose dad had this factory where they made metal stuff. And with his help, I built my own custom rig. And that was what I was shooting with.
That's awesome. I was just going to ask you.
Tape around it and stuff like that. It worked. It was fine.
Yeah. I was going to ask you, it was like, what can you remember the first time somebody asked you to do something that you didn't have the gear for? Like,
yeah,
because that was the thing. I remember that everybody had like the rock and roller, and like that was like everybody was just starting to build out. The shoulder mount was like the biggest thing when the 5D and the 7D came out. You know, everybody wanted to rest it. Like that was the thing.
Yeah, well, I never really came to a point where I needed something. It was usually because I wanted to use it. My clients did not know anything about film or video, so I would just say, hey, I'm coming with a gimbal and I'm going to do this and that. And they're like, okay, no idea what that is, just as long as the video looks good. So I was mostly making it myself more complicated by coming up with these ideas.
That sounds like pretty much when you're trying to get a job and they're asking you to come in and you just start to pad the email with like just different type of gear that they have no clue. Just make something up, like, and just add it in there so that they can go, oh, great, he's going to come with all this stuff and get the shot. So we'll pay him a little bit more for that.
Yeah, and that was actually one of the biggest mistakes that I did when I started out. I always thought that the client wanted me to hear how great of a movie that I can make. Like, I'm going to use lights and I have gels that I can put in front of my lights so I can have different colors of light. And I have a slider so I can move the camera. That way you see more parallax, more depth in your shots. It's much better. And then someone else would come in who had zero experience. They just went to a store, picked up a Handycam, and they came out with the business talk. Hey, I'm going to make this video for you, and it's going to triple your sales, and it's going to do this and that. And their price was 10 times higher, yet the client would always pick that guy instead of me. And then I realized that I should stop talking about stuff that the client does not know about. They have to, they want to hear what benefits the video is going to bring them, like what the result is going to be of that video, not how you make it.
Right. But look at your YouTube channel now compared to those other people.
Yeah.
Who won out in the end there? Yeah. Now you do all these tutorials. Is that your main business now? Do you still do these corporate shoots or anything like that? Or do you focus mostly on the tutorial side of things? Like,
yeah, the YouTube stuff has always been a hobby of me, like always. And in, I would say 2016, it became more serious. Like, I was starting to get my first paying clients, sponsors. And it was in 2018 where I really felt like I was doing two jobs at the same time, still doing corporate movies, freelancing and doing that kind of stuff, but also doing full-time YouTube. And it was in that year that I decided that I had to pick one side, and I chose for YouTube. And I just emailed all of my clients and I told them I'm going to stop working for you. And I had a great contact here, a camera guy. So I just forwarded my clients to him. And yeah, I made the decision there to stop.
Do you still get clients that people are reaching out to you like, hey, we'd love for you to work a corporate video for us? Or is everyone just more focused on being on your YouTube channel?
Not really, because I make no advertising around that. I don't have a website where it says, hey, I make corporate movies. I don't go to network events. You can't really find me. I mean, you can find me on Google, but not for the purpose of giving these services. So it happens very occasionally where someone finds me through YouTube. They see our videos and they think by themselves, hey, these guys can probably make a commercial or something for me. But it doesn't happen that much. And then I just reply with, I can't. I'm sorry.
Yeah. It's funny that you say that, like, because I remember we were watching some of the videos that were sent in our email chain, and there was one that you guys were building a set, I think, for a shoot. And you were like, this shoot's not till Monday, but we want to get it done by Friday so we can film this extra video for our channel on the walls. So it's like you can kind of see that the crossover of you trying to benefit both sides of your business with that. It's like I can see how that would be a headache.
Yeah. I think that was around 2018 probably. I mean, it transitioned a little bit over to 2019 maybe. I think there were maybe one or two clients that would ask for something like a couple of times a year, where I would say, okay. I mean, I still shot a theater play last weekend for someone because I have trouble saying no. That is also one of my weaknesses. But yeah, just like one dance thing. That was It's been years since I did that.
Yeah. So you primarily now you focus more on like VFX stuff, correct?
Yeah. So we have a team of 5 people here now, and I'm the one who hates editing and hates VFX. So
I'm with you.
I have 2 guys who do that. I have 3 guys actually. 2 of them does the VFX side, and then 1 guy does editing. I really like cinematography a lot, and storytelling and directing and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Well, you just had your short film that you filmed in Iceland. Is that correct?
In the Faroe Islands. Yeah.
The Faroe Islands. And how was that process for you when you were filming that, and the amount of gear you decided to bring? Can you tell us a little bit about what the background of that was?
Yes, chaotic.
And why do you feel it's chaotic?
So I had the idea to shoot a nice video on a very special place, the Faroe Islands, which is beautiful. And that's basically it. So I looked for sponsors to fund the whole project. I looked for some friends who wanted to come with me. I found a cosplay artist, and I just told them, let's go to the Faroe Islands and shoot a movie. They're like, okay. And on the plane, I was thinking, what should I shoot? What should I film? What story should I tell?
You focused on too much of the other stuff first.
Yeah, exactly. I know that I wanted to travel lightweight. I wanted to shoot on the Reds. That was one of my big things. Because until now, every travel that I did was always on a DSLR, a small camera, because I was also traveling with my wife, for instance, who didn't like that I was constantly filming. So I had to keep it small. But now I was with a group of people that are there for one purpose: make a movie. So I was able to bring the Red camera, and I had to buy these very old Nikkor lenses because my normal lenses were too big to pack. So I had these very small ones, these vintage lenses. They had a great look, but that was very interesting. And I specifically bought a new gimbal as well, a small gimbal where I could put the Red on. So it was a whole journey as well to make sure everything fitted in my backpack, and that the Reds fitted in the gimbal, and that with my lenses and everything fitted. But I got that to work, and I was able to just travel with one backpack, had all of my gear in there, and we just shot a bunch of shots without any story in mind. I did have the cosplay artist with me, and I wanted to do something around the elements. So she was dressed up as Katara from The Last Airbender, but also as the Fire Nation, and Earth and air as well. So we had those 4 elements, and I just let her do like bending movements, and that was it. And then I came back with a whole bunch of shots of her doing bending movements, And that's where the process of creating a story started, which was super hard.
That's cool. So that was kind of, that was all natural, like light. You didn't bring any other like
No,
reflectors
no.
or anything like that. Okay. Huh.
No. I did have a couple of lights with me, but we didn't use them.
Yeah.
Because like we had the sunlight most of the time as well. So these very small lights that I had with me just didn't do much.
Right.
And it was also not easy to like set up things, because usually you had to hike for an hour over a mountain or something. It was not easy to film. Like you were sitting on a cliff or something.
Yeah.
So
our producer behind the camera back there, John, we did something at Yellowstone. It was very similar. It was national park here, and it was like, okay, we're gonna go shoot up on this cliffside. It's like, carry this reflector. I'm like, do I have to? Like, yes, you do. Okay, cool. Like,
yeah, Bert was handholding.
This is an interesting
for
story,
most
maybe.
of that shoot. Yeah, I think you got like a good suntan being in Yellowstone.
oh, absolutely. It, you know, it's like walking around with like 2 reds or whatever. It's like, okay, who wants the tripods this time? I guess I'll take them. Like,
yeah, it was a team effort for sure. Jordy, I'm actually curious to know what you sort of learned from that experience as someone who went in without a necessary like game plan or a story about what to make, and then came back and had to find the story in the edit room. What would you say you learned from that whole experience, and where's the movie now currently? Like, where does it stand?
So what I learned from that entire experience is that it's good to have an idea up front. It's not easy if you
whoa, slow down there.
Whoa, let me take notes.
It's good to have, but it's not easy because you're going to a country that you don't know. You're hiking to places that you don't know, and it's not like you can just drop a street view pin on those places. So you're just looking at Google Earth stuff. You can tell where the sun is at, like a little bit. You know, okay, we have to be there in the morning or in the evening. But still, it's super hard because you don't know what you're going to come across or something. So what I just did was I just made sure that I had as much shots that I could use, so that I had enough things to work with in the edit. And someone once told me that editing is like cooking. You have a bunch of the same ingredients and you can make different meals with that. So I had a bunch of shots and I took the time to think about a story, and it was actually possible. I just worked a little bit through the simple 3-act structure, and I would just look like visually, what does this shot tell? What do I want to tell, and what shots can help me tell that? And it actually works. So I definitely learned a lot in the edits, that you can tell a new story or tell a story with just random shots. It is possible. Something that I have not experienced that much because I don't edit that much either. So that was definitely a fun experience to learn that you can bring a story to life. Of course, there were many points in that edit where I also thought by myself, if I were to had this specific shot, it would have been better.
right.
But yeah, I learned that you can tell a story in editing.
Yeah, I get like
So
I forget how many there actually is, but there was like I remember saying it was like you always make multiple movies when you do something. It's like there's the movie that you write, the movie that you shoot, the movie that you edit. They're all different, like, because things change. Even if you have a script and a storyboard out, you might realize that something's a little different than what you were expecting, and so now it changes the whole mood of this. So now we need to go in this other direction or something like that. So it's always kind of evolving. So that's an interesting take on how to just skip the whole first process. I mean, I guess it's a very artistic style, I guess, to go through. Like,
it also. I mean, the film that I made is also not a I would say that a fictional story. It's more of a creative art piece thing, a creative video. It's not where dialogue and the good guy and the bad guy and they're gonna fight and the good guy wins. It's not that kind of movie. It's a travel kind of movie. It's more like just a creative video, I would call that.
Did you run into any issues like when you were going, like you're going to a different country, you're bringing your gear? Did you run into any issues like culturally or even just travel? Like, oh, I didn't realize that we needed to have like this permit to bring this into your country or anything like that? Was there kind of like a learning curve to that?
If you're from Europe and traveling to other countries in Europe, it's easy. It's the same as going through different states in America. So you don't need anything. You just abort the plane and you go to the country within Europe.
That's nice.
And there's there's no.
Well, I was going to say
permits or anything.
The same project that I was working with John on, we had this experience. We flew from New York to what we thought was Switzerland, but was it the Geneva airport?
Yeah, it was Geneva.
We got off in the France side of the airport, and all of our customs forms were for the Swiss side. Or vice versa, you know? So it's like we ran into this whole like completely different police forces and people telling us that we had the wrong forms because we were talking to the wrong guy because we took a left instead of a right. You know, it was like this crazy ordeal, but maybe that's just because we're out of Europe.
It's because we're Americans.
Yeah, we're terrible people to begin with, so I guess that's the case there.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, just within Europe, you can just travel everywhere. I mean,
it's because you're American. You guys suck.
You're American.
I'll own up to it.
Country.
So you have a lot of experience making these tutorial videos, and you also have in your studio it's a fabulous studio. You guys have a whole setup. How does that work when you're reaching your audience? Because you do have a copycat Friday, right? Where you take and I don't know if you guys are still doing the segment, but every Friday I've seen that you guys will, you'll copy a video or music video or something they're doing and show how it's done. How does that work with the equipment you have? Is this stuff that you're going out and buying? Are you coming up with some of this stuff off the bat? Like how do you go about and approaching making these like shitty rig type, DIY stuff?
Well, it's always the wish.com version that we're setting up here. So we just roll with what we have. We have we actually bought a new studio just for storage. So we've got a bunch of junk in there that we can use to build sets with. We've got a thrift shop very nearby here. So we just go and buy stuff there if needed. But usually we just try to aim for the same look and feel and not per se the exact same set. Because usually as well, because we explain what an effect is about. For instance, we did a video about where Billie Eilish, and we were lucky because that was shot in a completely dark black studio. And we're like, yes, we got a dark black studio. So that's perfect.
We can do this.
But other times it's, where, some rap video and these guys standing in a parking lot with very specific cars and this building behind it. And I mean, that's not possible. We have to shoot it in studio for the sake of time as well. So we just look at the look and feel. Like, do they use like neon lights or something? Is there a specific tone, color to it? So we just go for that. We just drive our cars in, which are not the same cars as those Lambos and stuff like that. But so we just have like a Volkswagen sitting there. But it works.
You can put those doors on any car. You can.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. But yeah, we just like go for the look and feel, because eventually it's always about the effect. Like if that rap video uses something like a glitch effect or something as that, we explain how to do that glitch. So it doesn't even matter that we create the set, but I think it's just nice. It adds to the whole tone of the video. Usually I'm also dressed as like that rapper, and I'm pretending to be that rapper the entire time. Or if we're doing Billie Eilish, I paint my hair blue.
I saw that. I love that.
For the entire,
I love that. It was at first it was yellow, and then you're like, oh fuck, wrong cap.
Yeah, that was a fail. Yeah.
How did you guys start the idea of Copycat Friday? Like, where did that come from? What was the goal of it? Was the goal to just learn tricks, like try to do your versions of like high budget things on your budget, or like what was the sort of the drive that made you guys want to start doing that?
At film school, we had an assignment called Copycat, and the idea was to look at a scene from a movie, and we had to recreate that in terms of lighting and in terms of camera movement and everything. So it was really, really good to learn something, and I found that a very interesting assignment. because you really understand how hard sometimes things are or why certain things are done. Because you do see nice lighting on someone, but if you're starting to recreate that lighting, you start to understand, oh, I need to place a light here, another one here, another one there. And at first you think it are only 2 lights, but while you're trying to recreate that, you realize it are 6 lights and different filters and all of that to recreate that. So you learn so much from recreating. And that has always been in the back of my mind. And for YouTube, it became at a certain point, it was just really hard to come up with ideas. Like at a certain point, you just have told everything. So that was for us an idea to constantly find new concepts. You just go through the trending page, just look at what new music videos there are, or what new movies or trailers or series, and you just look for an interesting effect. You recreate that, but you also recreate the set.
That's great, man.
Yeah. I like that, and I like that. Like in your videos, you even show like the failed attempts. We watched one that was it was one of your horror ones where you did the 3 different effects in one episode, and you ended up hanging a mannequin from your grid, which I love that it kind of glossed over. It was just like, yeah, just hang it from the ceiling, and you're like, wait, what? How do I hang it from? But like before that, you had this big pallet rig, and you had like them cantilevered off the end of it, and you were like, it was cool to see the failed attempt, because when somebody's watching one of these to try to learn how to do something, they might try that and then they're like, oh, well, this isn't going to work, and I know it's not going to work because these guys showed me it doesn't work. So it skips an entire step for these people that are trying to learn, which is awesome. It's like, because if you showed them the only way to do it, well, then they're going to go out and they're going to try to find the cheaper way to do the cheap version. It's like, so you're helping them skip a whole thing, which is awesome. Like,
most definitely. Like one of our most successful videos is where we wanted to recreate the effect in a music video from Maroon 5. I'm not sure what it's called anymore, but you had this camera going around the actors, the artists, and you would see constantly like a new person appearing behind one of the artists. And so we wanted to create this motorized camera going around the talents. And our genius idea was go to the thrift shop and buy a go-kart, like one of those manual go-karts. And we would add like a drill. We would connect that to the wheel of the go-kart so that we have an automatic go-kart. With tape, we could make sure that the drill kept going. And we would put the camera on there. So, and with the steering wheel in an angle, we had the camera going around it. But it was so wobbly, and it didn't work. but we showed that entire process in the video, because it was such a fun process, and we were spending an entire week on that. And then we had like 1 day left, and we had to figure it out because that was a music video that was going viral. So we knew that we had to make that video. And eventually we came to a conclusion that it was actually easy if you just run in circles with a gimbal and do a little bit of masking. Even in Premiere, didn't even need After Effects. We were able to make it work. But I think it's fun to see that process of just overcomplicating things. Well, it could have been done simply.
Yeah. I feel like that's when you have too much gear, that's when you start looking at I have to use this, I have to use this, I have to use this. But you take 2 steps back, and then you realize like, oh, I could have just my phone has that ability. It's There's always another way, which is that's what we try to tell people.
Yeah. In our meet and greet, you talked about how you had your film school that you were in has used some of your tutorial videos as part of the class. Can you talk a little bit about that? Because I am curious as how that worked out for you from when you were in film school and what they would tell you versus now and how they use your content.
Yeah, I love to tell that story. I always hope that some of the teachers are watching. But
we can send it to them. If you give them their email address, we can send it directly to them.
Oh yeah, that's good. That's good. So when I went to film school, it was very traditional. You would learn film and television to get into the industry. And the school was also proud of that label of being the best film school in Belgium. because everybody who comes out of film school here, they'll definitely go into these big sets for these productions. But I didn't want to do that because, as I said before, I don't like having one role on a set. You know, if I'm doing the camera, I also want to do some lighting and also want to do some sound and do some directing. You know, I like those small indie sets. I really enjoy that. But they didn't appreciate my opinion. And I even came to...
That's a polite way for you to say that. They were like, fuck off.
Yeah, that's basically what it came down to. And for my final work, I actually wanted to do a tutorial, a lighting tutorial. So one person was doing a short film, the other one was doing a documentary. I wanted to do a tutorial video because I was doing YouTube videos at the time as well, just as a hobby. And my teacher said, no, absolutely not. You're going to make a documentary. And you're going to make a documentary about like old teachers at school, like how you call it, like people who don't work anymore at school, and that they have interesting stories to tell, something that I'm not interested in at all. So eventually I had to make that documentary. It sucks because I didn't enjoy making that. And you know, some other things, the school was also like really against those DSLRs at the time, like the 5D that was coming out, because those were photo cameras. They're not video cameras. You don't use that in a professional environment, you know.
What did they want you to use?
So we had, well, first we had the XL1 from Canon, like those white big cameras. And then we had I think the Sony Z7, like those handy cam, or bigger handy cams. Yeah. And the back focus was completely off, so they were worthless. That, and we had the red as well, like the red one, the very first one. We had the XD cams, like those very big SD cams. We just wanted to shoot on small cameras. So they were really against that idea. And then when I graduated, you know, I did some freelancing, I did my YouTube. Someone suddenly sent me a picture on Facebook, a student who was attending my film school where I went. And it appeared that they were showing off my tutorials in their class on a projector, big in those classes. And I'm like, and you didn't want me to make those. Now you're using those.
you need to go back there and start collecting royalties.
That's right.
Yeah. Actually, I do. They also asked me they also asked me once to do like a guest teaching at the film school. I just said no. I didn't want to do that.
You should have asked if your old professors were still there. Like if they're still there, I don't want to do it.
They are. Yeah. Actually, that teacher who wanted me to make that documentary, he's now the school board, like the director of the school.
I bet he's following you on YouTube.
I hope so.
So one of the other stories you were telling us I thought was really interesting was you mentioned to us that you had to do a car crash for one of your short films, but and correct me if I'm wrong, but in Belgium you said that you can't purchase a used car without it being registered, and it would be more expensive than doing what you did. And I'd love for you to talk about what actually happened for that shoot.
Yeah, so we wanted to do a car crash, but entirely in studio. We just had to film the scene after the crash. So the idea was just to bust the window and everything, just have a broken down car so that we can make shots around it. But it's illegal to buy a car in Belgium that is not registered. So you can't just buy a car from the junkyard. And that's probably because they don't want you to drive around with a car that is not street legal. So I just had to buy parts. I bought a front window. I bought seats. I bought like the door. I bought the roof of the car. So I just bought a bunch of different parts.
Is this from like a junkyard? You go to a junkyard and just buy different stuff?
Yeah, just like a car junkyard. Yeah. So we just put that together, and with some lighting, you know, just a dark scene. It was at night. I had a hole into the window, and just the camera would like travel through, and you had this blood on the window and everything. So the shots came out good, but it was funny to see the actor sitting there. You know, they had to sit like in not really a car. Yeah. It was like sticks and tape and just all that. And that was weird. And what's funny was that it was a very intense scene because the actor had to cry because his child was actually lifted through the front window. And so he would look at his child just laying there. And the actor was it was very tense on set. Like everybody was quiet. Like, and the actor was preparing himself for like an hour. He was just laying on the floor with music in his ears, like getting into the role. And then when he came to set, he had to crawl into the self-built car, which was which was a little bit funny, but yeah, it turned out good.
Wow.
I like that. I worked on a movie. The final shot was a car crash scene, and everybody was delirious after a very long day on set. And it would, you know, they're in a car crash. They have to be really serious, but we're doing like a process trail, like a poor man's process. So they're just parked in a lot, and we've got the lights, and people are waving their hands in front of them, and you know, it's some guys are going crazy. They're just waving their arms all over the place, but the actor has to look directly at this person that's like dancing in front of the car, but like they have to pretend like they're in a car crash, and it's like it's a very weird juxtaposition. Like you only see people only see what's in the camera, but the crew, everybody, like, you know, everybody's cracking up. It's hard to like keep your composure for those kinds of things. Yeah,
exactly. Like the car crash itself was also interesting. We took the door of the car. We put that sideways. We had the share of the car also sideways, so the actor was just laying with his back actually inside of that chair and just holding a steering wheel that wasn't connected, just holding that steering wheel. Then we had silicone that we would throw, which resembled the glass. And we had the girl just jump up. So she was just standing and she just jumped up. And that way it appeared as she was like
launched forward,
going through the front window. And if you shoot that close enough, dark enough with the correct lighting, it looks good.
That's awesome.
That's great. So would you say that's one of your favorite shitty rigs you've ever created for yourself? Is that one that's most memorable? Do you have any others that you feel like stand out to you?
Well, hold on. Do you consider that a shitty rig?
Oh, that's a good question.
Yeah. The thing is, we've made so many shitty rigs that one is actually pretty genius instead of shitty.
That's not
for
a spectrum,
the budget, I think it was a genius.
Okay. Well, shitty rigs, shitty rigs, like Alan just said, it's not a spectrum, right? It's like it could be a genius shitty rig, right? But that's still part of the process for you.
Yeah, I think like the most shitty rig was so we were for just our channel at YouTube. We're constantly looking for new ideas, and we were trying to do some more advanced stuff, but people didn't like that apparently. And I was angry at a certain point. And I thought to myself, you know what? Okay, you guys want free stuff, you want basic stuff. You know what? I'm gonna give you 9 cardboard hacks.
Yes.
I was gonna ask you about this one. Yeah.
So I built a slider out of cardboard. I didn't know what else. I built so much
mic
stuff
stand?
out of cardboard.
You did a mic
and
stand?
That got over 300,000 views. A light stand, just everything.
Yeah, I remember.
And that got so many.
It was a focus marks. So you put the circle around the lens. Yeah. I was going to ask you. So it's like when we've noticed this too. You can never make everybody happy. Like we can post the most perfect shitty rig by anybody's definition, and then by this guy's definition, that's not a shitty rig, or it uses too much tape, or you know, they used real gear,
not
or
shitty.
You know, it's like so. There's always going to be somebody that's unhappy. So it's kind of one of those things where it's like, how often are you demoing things that you actually use and think are helpful versus giving people what they want, I guess? Is that like, because have you ever actually used a cardboard slider, or did you just make that so that group of people would shut up? You know, it's like
I'm not using cardboard sliders. So I just did that. For me, we always do that because everything that we create is always for a specific video. So we just built that. We showed it in the video. We do that one camera movement or whatever is needed, and then we tear that apart. We either store it if it's still usable. We never reuse it, or like with the cardboard, we just throw that away. I'm not going to store that. Yeah, that's because we always like use it for one specific shoot. Like we also once built this crane, like 2 planks in a triangle with a camera on top. And we were able to like rotate that around an entire car, which was just built out of wood with some planks. It worked, and it worked pretty well. You get a really nice shot from it, but it's not worth to keeping that stored here. It's pretty big, and it's a very specific shot. Like, when should we do that again?
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
So.
Well, you mentioned in your comments that you get that the cardboard one, the different cardboard, different shots and stuff and equipment you can build with cardboard came from your audience. Do you feel like your audience is looking for more of those like hacks of how to make things happen on a budget, or what do you feel like your audience is looking for the most from what you make as a content creator?
Well, there are, let's say, 3 kind of audiences. You have, of course, the beginner audience, which is huge. Everybody starts with something. A part of that continues with something, and even smaller part of that even goes further. So the more you make something advanced, the smaller your audience is. So if you make something for beginners, you're always going to reach a bigger audience, a louder audience as well. And like, that's one audience. Then you also have an audience that is not even interested in the stuff that you're doing. And with those cardboards, I mean, we're coming close at the 5-minute craft videos. I mean, you don't have to be interested in filmmaking to see someone playing with cardboard and seeing them do weird stuff with a camera. It's just fun to look at, I guess. And then your third audience is an audience that's actually there to learn the craft, and they're more looking for advanced. Now, they're not interested in cardboard tricks. You know, they want to know more like the visual storytelling behind doing a slider movement or something as that. But it's always easier to go for that beginner tutorial thing. The only problem is that as a creator, if you're doing beginner tutorials for so many years, you get exhausted as well. And you're trying to make more advanced tutorials, which we all love more. Like, now we're experimenting with virtual production, which is so interesting. And there's also a very big indie group in that, like a DIY group in that, because we don't have the budget of setting up an LED wall and working with a Vicon tracking system and all of that. We're also looking for cheap solutions. But even that, it has a very small audience. You know, it's an advanced audience. So you're going to get less views, unfortunately. So it's not easy.
So do you, with that in mind, do you run into situations where like you see a piece of gear that you want to use, and so you go out and buy it, and then you kind of show like, well, this is the entry level version of it. You can do this at home, but this is what the pro model that I want actually does. And like, do you compare those kind of things ever, or do you kind of cater more to your audience and you don't even show those kind of things? Like,
I used to do that, definitely with a lot of software as well. Like, for instance, a certain plugin that can do color grading really well. I would always show like, okay, this is how you do it in the Lumetri, but it goes easier with this plugin, for instance. So I would show both ways, so that those who are watching that don't have the budget to buy that plugin or are not interested in buying that plugin still learn something. And we try the same thing with gear as well. If there's a shot where you have to make a certain gimbal shot, for instance, we show that doing a gimbal. But I would say also, hey, you can like use, I don't know why there's laying a knife here, but you can use like a stick. I use it to open my beer bottle. But you can use that, a stick, and if you have your camera, here's the camera, you can hang your camera to it, and the weight will kind of like stabilize it a bit. If you hold it here, you know, you'll have a gimbal as well. It's the shitty rig way of doing something. So I would say that, but at a certain point, you just get exhausted by that as well.
Oh yeah.
So from now on in your videos, are you going to use the word shitty rigs? Are we going to hear that from you?
Yes.
Just a shout out to your friends in America, bro. Just shitty rigs. I should do it this way.
You have to wink every time you do it, though.
Yeah, because then I'll know.
I'll do it.
We'll all know that at that point when you said shitty rigs and wink at us, that part of the video was for us.
Well, that's what we'll
Yes.
do. We can do shitty rig Sundays.
Yeah.
So now on after your Fridays, like when you guys do equipment battles a lot of the time. So
That
it's
we
like
saw too.
you guys kind of like I think you had to do a motorized slider for one of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I love that because it's it's like it shows the relationship between you guys in the studio too. Like he picks up a piece of gear and it's like, no, that's mine.
Yeah.
Like that kind of thing. Like, but if we can do that.
I don't know where he was going with that.
I don't know
statement.
either, but who cares? I mean, that's
I just want to hear shitty rig on his chat. I'm like, shitty rig. And then I'm going to feel really special. I'm going to feel really special that day.
I'm gonna do that.
we're here for it.
Yeah.
Oh, man. I had a really good follow-up question. Bert made me forget. Fuck. Bert fucks everything up.
No, I want to hear your really good follow-up question.
Yeah.
I know. I'm going to think about it now.
It's best.
So I'm very curious as to how you feel, because when we were chatting in our meet and greet, I asked you how you wanted to be introduced, and you said as a content creator versus a filmmaker, right? Because necessarily you don't make films, but how is that line between content creators and the films they're making and putting on, YouTube versus the traditional route that like Bert does, where he works on films? Necessary. I'm looking for some reason to throw Bert under the bus, but I can't think of one. So fuck. But I'm just curious as to how do you process that, and how do you feel? Are the lines blurring for the two? Are they connecting? What's the evolution for filmmaking and content creators within the next 5-10 years? How do you feel like it's going to evolve?
That's a tricky one. I mean, everyone can call them a filmmaker if you want to be called that way. I mean, fine. I just don't see myself as one because I mean I did make a ton of short films. I never worked on a feature film. I did make short films, but it always felt so DIY and not experienced in a certain way. Like you're making a short film, and while you're making that you're making tons of mistakes. So it just feels more like content creation, like our videos on YouTube, where we also we're making mistakes, but it doesn't matter because it's just a video on YouTube, And those short films are the same way. Yeah, I'm not sure. I more see a filmmaker as someone who really goes for film. Like they want to make films, feature films or short films, like they focus on that. Whereas I make a new tutorial video every single week. So I'm more of a tutorial guy, and maybe twice a year, maximum twice a year, I'll make a short film. So am I a filmmaker for just making 2 small short films a year? I'm not sure.
I think you'd be surprised how many mistakes are made on professional sets.
Yeah.
Well, how do you
Maybe.
feel? How do you feel about that line that's being blurred as a content creator? Like, where do you see Cinecom.net being in 5 years from now, right? Because you're saying, there's at a certain point you've done pretty much everything on the spectrum, and now you're getting deeper and deeper into like VFX. And how do you see Cinecom.net growing in the next 5 years? How do you see it evolving?
That's a question that many people ask, and I never know what to answer. A good business should have a plan for the next 5 years. I don't, so I'm not sure if I'm a good business.
No, I think that's great. I mean, you don't necessarily need a plan. I think the fact that you started off from film school, you said, "Screw this! I'm not doing this documentary, and I'm doing my own thing," is the plan, right? And from that,
the thing is that I used to have a goal. I wanted to have my own film studio, and I wanted to do YouTube full time. And I reached that goal around 2019, where I had I had a crew. So I had everything that I wanted to have. I also don't feel in life right now. Yeah, thanks. So I don't feel that in life that I need something more. I do feel that I might want something different. So I'm not sure if I can continue what I'm doing right now for the rest of my life. I'd say maybe 5, 6, 7 years tops, but then I'd probably stop with the whole channel.
What's that different? You said you want to do something different. What does that different entail for you? What is coming from your gut?
He wants to have a beer where if you give the bartender a thumbs up, they know what to hand you. Like.
Yeah. Yeah, no idea. I love making short films, and I really want to do more of that. The thing is that it's not easy because in the end, we're still a business.
Yeah.
So if I decide to take a left turn and do something different, what's that going to translate into money? Because after all, we got 2 studio buildings now. I have to pay 5 wages here. I've got a loan. We need the revenue every single month. And we can do that by just making tutorial videos, making courses, selling those courses. When we have something going on here that works. So it's not easy to just do something different all of a sudden. I'm not sure if that's going to work within Cinecom. Maybe it's going to be after Cinecom if I quit here and do something different. Who knows? Maybe I'm going to be a carpenter or something. Who knows?
I mean, you could just have your AI just making your videos for you with your image.
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, I'm curious, like, do you feel like in the future AI will play a part in your videos? Are you going to incorporate AI in any aspect of your filmmaking, your creative content?
We're already doing that.
Really? In what sense?
Yes. I think it's very important, if not now, definitely within this year, that creators start to use tools to help them create stuff. There are so many tools out there. Like everything is AI these days. Even my pincher right here. It's everything is.
You're drinking a bottle of water.
Yeah, it's crazy, and you have no idea how it can help you. Something simple. I mean, it's not simple, but something as ChatGPT. But it can, like, we use that to write articles. If we are working on a concept for a new video, like now we're doing a video about like a cine battle again. Like me and Janik, we both had to make like this slow-mo video art where you like drop something into a bottle and like water or paint like goes out of that bottle.
Nice.
And we were looking for interesting things to make it just more exciting. So we just asked ChatGPT, hey, do you have some ideas to make it more dramatic or make it more exciting? And so it would give us certain tips. So we're not using it yet to write entire scripts, but we come up with an idea and then we use ChatGPT to like fill that idea more in or to give us some options to look at, etc. Also when writing scripts, for example, you're writing about a character that is driving, and you can just ask it, okay, this character is driving to the store, but something happens. What happens? Give me 10 things. What happens? And you get 10 things of what happens while that actor is driving to the store. And that could bring you good ideas. Like, okay, this is nice. A deer runs onto the road, for instance. That's something that I can do something with. And that's just one of the tools. Apart from that, there are so many. Like we got the image generators. You can use that. We now have text to video, which is super interesting. So you can just film yourself just standing outside doing a dance, and then you say, change this to an astronaut dancing on Jupiter or something, or on Mars, and it will just change that, and you'll have an astronaut dancing on the Mars, and it just takes over your movement like a motion capture. It's insane. And now we're actually working with a sponsor as well, and that is absolutely insane. We're going to shoot that video next week. But it is an app, a motion capture app. And you're basically using 2 iPhones, and it's best to use 4 iPhones. It's just an app. And it can motion capture multiple people as well within that space. And it is as good as a motion capture suit.
Whoa.
it is as good. So it's not coming near, it is as good.
Right.
So that's going to change the industry. It is insane. So if you're working with motion capture and you say to yourself, I don't want to hear about those apps, I'm going to stick with my $100,000 motion capture studio, then that is wrong. You should look at it because it will not take it over right now, but it will slowly, I think.
That's not didn't like Bruce Willis like quit acting, but he sold rights to his look to like deep fake, so people can still.
Yeah, I've heard something about that.
Yeah,
yeah.
so
I didn't know that.
Yeah, that you're right. That is going to happen. It's like 50 years from now, people still want to see Bruce Willis in a movie. Why wouldn't they?
Well, Keanu also specifically has something in his contract where they can't do that. So like they can't.
Well, he's a fucking vampire, so he's going to be acting for the next 1,000 years. That's fine.
Wow. So how do you feel in the future when it comes to these content creators and these filmmakers? Right, we're talking 5-10 years from now when AI is officially taken over. What do you feel like is? Yeah, I mean, no, we're not dead. But what do you feel like is important to have in your bag if you're coming into filmmaking, right? If you're coming into and you're like, well, I'm on the cusp of graduating college. I want to figure out what I need to have that's important when it comes to equipment, but also what technology should I be using? What would you recommend right now for artists to have?
I think you just said that. 4 iPhones.
Yeah, 4 iPhones. Well, it depends a lot on what you're doing. If you're into VFX, yes, that is definitely something. 4 iPhones and an app that allows you to do motion capture. I think there are so many tools, and you don't have to look anymore at those big studios. Like with the motion capture, to take that example again, someone who graduates in VFX and wants to work in motion capture for these studios, they have to apply there for a job. They start out as the guy who rolls up the cables. And hopefully, they can work themselves up until eventually they play one role within that motion capture studio. Or, you buy your own motion capture studio. If you have $300,000 laying around, you can do that. But you don't have to do that anymore. You can just look for an app that does that. You can set it up in your garage, 4 iPhones, and you're doing motion capture the same way, not the same way, but the same quality as those big studios are doing. And within the next 5 years, I'm very confident that many of these tools are going to take over some of those, big things. It's the same as with cameras as well. The time where the Canon 5D released, that was also a shocking moment. And like I said, at film school, they were saying, no, it's a photo camera, but it was shooting better video than any other camera that was laying there at my school.
Yeah.
But it just costed, what was it, like $2,000 for that camera?
Right.
And we had cameras laying there 20,000 and more. That was more crap.
Yeah. And it's a fixed lens.
Yeah, exactly. And it's the same thing now. Like if you see what Blackmagic is making, like Zcam, like small cameras that cost nothing. You don't need an Arri Alexa to have great picture quality. An Arri Alexa has specific use cases on sets so that you can plug certain things in it so that a crew can work around it. But if you have an SLR of $1,000 and you put that right next to an Arri Alexa footage, you don't see the difference. Or you have to start pixel peeping, or you're going to have to put someone there who knows the difference, who knows what the colors are. But if you're asking your mom, hey, what's the better footage? They won't see the difference. Cameras have come to a point where it doesn't matter what camera you choose. You can pick your phone. Your phone shoots great video. And that's the same thing with many things out there, like with VFX as well. Like you don't need to know much anymore. There are so many apps that create VFX for you. Just look at what those filters do. Like we were spending so much time in After Effects, tracking faces with Mocha, and it still doesn't work. And then with Snapchat, you have one filter and you have something tracking over your face. It's stupid, but there are more and more of these apps and softwares that make that process for you so much easier. And I think that's going to be important for filmmakers in the future or creatives in the future to look for things that they are interested in and just look for tools that make that process easy. So I don't think it's going to be hard to find those, because, you know, those apps are usually marketing really well. You know, they're shouting like, hey, use me and stuff. So.
I think this is a really good point. So I noticed that with, you know, I went to school for film and television broadcasting, and a lot of these programs are starting to feel outdated, as if you don't necessarily need to go to film school rather than taking an online course. And I wonder how, and to your point, I feel like the audience is starting to feel, and our audience especially is starting to feel like, well, we don't necessarily need to go to film school to get the latest of what's happening in technology, and to do everything we need to do. We don't need that expensive camera. We can get the one that is more of you know, run and gun situation to get the shots you need, to get the footage you want. And I think it's important to know that you can do all of this on a budget, and you don't need to go, oh, I need to go spend, you know, tens of thousands of dollars on this high tech camera, when I can do it for a budget and make really good footage, and from there grow on top of that.
Yeah, most definitely. At film school, what I learned there is something you can learn as well on YouTube. There's no reason anymore to go to film school to learn film. However, it's still interesting in a way to learn more like how a studio works. Like we did live capture as well there. We had these broadcast cameras in a studio, and we learned how that team works. Mm-hmm. You know, you had the director, you had the video mixer, you had the shader, you had the camera guys and everything. You had the DOP, the sound area as well. Like, how does that work? And that's something that I don't think is so easy, or possible even to learn from YouTube or online courses. That's something that you need to experience. And to just go to a random set and say, hey, can I just work here? They're not going to give you a certain task. But at school, you can be the director, you know, you can be the video mixer, you know, you have the ability to get that, you know, high position in a production, and you are able to experience what that is. And I think that's where film schools are still interesting for. But if you just want to do content creation or indie filmmaking or that kind of stuff, like, I don't see a reason to go to film school.
That's an interesting point to me too, because it's always, you're going to learn from everybody else around you. And that's like, he's going to think about something completely different than the way that I think about something. And even on one of the TV shows that I worked on a couple of years ago, like, we had one director of photography that was supposed to do the show. And we did the whole lighting plot with them, and it was all tungsten lights because that's how it's done. And then we had a new DP that came in instead of that person, and everything became LED. And it's because this new person had never shot this kind of TV show. We were doing a sitcom, you know, where the entire grid now became the LED version of the tungsten lights that they've been using for 30 years, because back then there weren't LED lights. So, you know, there is kind of like that. If you surround yourself with new people, you will learn the new way, or you will think of a new way, or somebody will tell you something that, you know, never crossed your mind because you're so used to something new, which is, I mean, it's kind of back to what you were saying before. It's like you scroll through the trending video and you see what the newest thing somebody thought was cool, and that's how that's where you find your content or something like that. But it's
well, I would add that it's a bridging of the gap from experience for what the technology offers today, right? So you don't need necessarily 30 years of experience to figure something out than you can with the technology that is out today.
I think there's also something to be said that there's not like one way to do things. You know, back to what Jordy was saying about cameras, right? Like, there's always going to be that argument of like which camera is better for whatever reason. But like he said, like, it really depends on the project. I've always believed that like the project should dictate what camera you should use, and not the other way around. You shouldn't just be using a camera because you think that's always going to add to the project, because it's not always true. Like, just look at how they did Top Gun. They had like 6 cameras in a fucking cockpit, and like they cut between those, and like they're not all the same brand, right?
Right.
And that always changes. And so that's, I think, from my experience too, because I remember when the 5D came out, that kind of changed my perspective on like how cameras could work.
Yeah.
You know what, and I think that really changed the game for sure. And I feel like that's common for a lot of people from our generation.
You brought up Keanu Reeves, and he actually has a really good documentary about the transition from film to video. And he interviews all these different directors and cinematographers and stuff. And he talks about like the first time they got something like the 5D or a small video cam, and they just like could put it on a broomstick and wave it in the air. Like, and you can't do that with a film camera. You know, it's like it's an eighth of the weight. You know, so it's like
gonna break your broom.
Yeah, but it's like you get all these new angles that you never had access to before. So that's, you know, GoPros are insane right now. You know, you can throw one at a wall and get a shot that you could never get 20 years ago. But
unless you were Michael Bay, and you were just smashing.
Well, yeah, you just
blowing everything up.
Yeah. I was actually going to ask you, because you're talking about like the venture forward into AI and you know, overlaying something onto something that you did shoot. So I could stand in the studio and I could just move myself around, and I could go into the AI and say earthbender effects. Like what would you say the benefit to, or not benefit, but like, isn't there something a little special about traveling to that other country and shooting the stuff there and kind of experiencing a whole nother place than staying in the same black box that you've been in and just having a computer do it? Like, don't you kind of want that experience for yourself?
Yeah, most definitely. It's always more fun to go on location, to travel and stuff like that. Most definitely. The thing is just that if you know, if certain things are available in this world, other people will always use it. And if you say like, no, I'm gonna spend a week to travel to that location, film it there, and then come back because it's more genuine, it looks more, you know, the feeling and the mood is better, while that other person does that same thing in 5 minutes, then they are able to make more content. You know, they can produce more videos in the time that you're making that one video. So the competition is going to be hard if you, but of course, and I also don't think that it's going to take away entirely to shoot on location. I think we never know. And of course, as a filmmaker or creator yourself, you want to work on locations and stuff like that. But it's also going into a better direction with these LED walls as well. Yeah, where I think the crew and the actors feel more in that place rather than working with a green screen. So I think that technology is also adapting more to the human side of things. And
I'll say that's it's almost the equivalent of taking the corporate job so that you can have fun doing the personal project. You know, it's like do the quick, easy AI thing so that you can go travel for yourself.
So Jordy, let me ask you, where do you, what advice would you give filmmakers, you know, coming into the business now, as things are changing, as things are growing, as AI is becoming more of a factor? What advice would you give filmmakers that are entering the business, or content creators for that matter?
Don't enter the business.
Hey, that piece of advice has never changed. That's
We've gotten that a lot from our guests.
Yeah, there it is.
No, it is I mean, I can't speak for the film industry because I've never, I mean, I did like one small internship there and I really hated it. So I can't speak for that. The only thing that I can speak for are indie productions and everything that you do yourself. So you want to make a movie, okay, you're going to shoot it, you're going to direct it, you're going to write it, you're going to edit it, you know, you're going to do everything. Like that world is something that I have experienced, still am. It is a super exciting world because things are so small, you're also able to just do your own stuff, which is on one hand, you know, really exciting. You know, you have all this freedom. On the other hand, you do feel alone sometimes because you can't learn from professionals who've been in the industry for 20 years. I know while you are rolling up the cables for a camera guy you can look at that camera guy and seeing what he's doing. That's something that you can do as a small creator. And I'm lucky to have a crew, so we can share ideas. But that wasn't there in the beginning. And in the beginning, I definitely had those moments of just feeling alone, that I needed to like figure everything out. So I'd say like the best advice that I can give for those who want to keep it small is to surround yourself as soon as possible with other creatives, to make stuff. If you want to make a short movie, don't do that entirely alone, but look for people. Also look for people that want to make a short movie, not people who just want to help you out, like, hey, your sister or something, but people who are interested in that genre, doing something like sounds. Like don't ask someone who just holds a boom because he wants to help you, but someone who's actually interested in doing sounds. Like, look for those kind of people. So if you don't have friends to do that, ditch your friends, look for new friends. That's what it comes down to.
I like that. It's good advice. That's good advice. And I like that. It's not necessarily, you want to surround yourself with people that want to create this content, but they don't necessarily have to think like you, right? Because they can have a different approach to it, different feel to it, that will bring something new to the table. Because you don't want to surround yourself with people that think just like you, because you'll get the same ideas rather than having different approaches to it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And you don't have to look for people that are experienced either. Like, everyone who worked here at Cinecom had zero experience when they started here.
Really? And
really
how did you
zero.
find these people? Like, these were just friends of friends, or people that you were just like?
It was just a job listing. But the problem is that it's super hard here to find people. It's not like LA where everybody is doing film.
No.
It's super hard here to find someone. And like Janik, he came to me while looking for a job as a graphical designer. That's what he studied.
Wow.
And he just started here. He had no idea about cameras, lighting, no idea about that. So I taught him everything. The stuff that I learned at film school, I just taught him everything. Lorenzo, he did an internship here. He was going to a school, like an art school, where you did like everything, going from like painting, but also like electronics, making apps, and doing a little bit of video, like everything. But he had more interest in making videos. But he had no professional experience. Like, he was able to make nice things, but he didn't know what he was doing, or like, for example, with lighting. Like, he had no idea about how to create depth with lighting or something, So I had to teach him all of that as well. Timon now as well. He's just he also has no experience whatsoever. But he just really enjoys editing.
Anything is just he's just there.
He's super great.
No, he was making YouTube videos about what's it called again? Like a DJ app or something, and he was good at presenting. He was good at how to write scripts that are exciting.
You're like, perfect. Join our team.
Never learned
Come
that
on.
somewhere.
He's gonna ask us to cut this part.
I think that's great. You surround yourself with people that have the drive, not necessarily the know-how,
exactly,
but the drive to.
And
get
you can
done.
talk with them. Yeah, you can share ideas. You don't need experience to have an idea. So it's just good to have people that you can talk with if you're working on these creative projects.
So this is the preemptive strike. 8 years from now, when Cinecom.net goes away, he's going to win an Oscar.
That's right.
Like that. You're in you're in the same age group as me. We started Shitty Rigs probably right when you were getting out of college. When did you hear about us? Or have you heard about us? Or was it just Stefan reaching out to you that put us on your radar?
I'm not really active on social media much, which is odd because my job is social media. But I don't even have TikTok. I've got Instagram installed, but I barely go through it.
Mm-hmm. It's overwhelming.
It's just I'm just not the kind of guy. I get exhausted for some reason. Like, people get addicted to social media. I get exhausted by it for some reason. So my phone is usually just laying somewhere. I'm never on my phone. Sometimes just browsing through the news. That's the only thing that I basically do, like news articles. So yeah, not really active on social media. But Timo, he's our guy who does all the socials. And he's been following you guys for a long time, I know. Because he's been talking about you guys a lot of times. Like he oftentimes like shows me something like, hey, look at what these guys are posted. Like, oh, cool. Yeah. So I did see your content like pass through Timo.
Has Timo submitted any stuff to Shitty Breaks without you knowing?
I've probably posted a bunch of stories.
Probably.
Maybe. Yeah, he's always posting the stories. Yeah.
It's because we're millennials and he's probably Gen Z. I bet he's Gen Z, right?
He's the same age, actually.
Oh, is he really?
Same age.
Yes.
Yeah. He's the same age. But yeah, I think that you just have these weirdos who don't like social media.
Yeah.
No, totally I mean it is exhausting. I totally understand what you mean, but it's it's hard to step away from it sometimes too.
Yeah, it's part of the business, right? It's how you stay relevant and grow as a company is to be on the pulse of what's happening in the world today.
Yeah, true. Yeah. It also feels like a task oftentimes. Like we have to make stories, we have to make an Instagram reel, or we have to do a TikTok. And I'm like, okay, I'll start dancing. No, Jordy, not those kind of TikToks. So we have to. I just like to make a video, and what happens next, I don't care about.
Yeah.
And then as always, you post it to YouTube and like, oh no, it's not getting enough views, and you have to change the thumbnail, make everything clickbait. You have to do all of that stuff. Those things are super exhausting. I think also that's the reason why I can't keep doing this, because you in some way you think creators have freedom, they just make what they want, but it's not. They're constantly have to make something what the algorithm wants you to make.
Yeah.
So we have a boss, and it's the algorithm,
I like that.
and we constantly have to fight that, and that is exhausting.
I like what he's saying. I don't necessarily like what necessarily the point, but I get it, and I like where you're headed. As a content creator, how do you feel about the thumbnails that you're creating and the aspect of getting people to watch your content? Do you feel like it's beneficial? Do you feel like it's changing over time? And will you yourself click on those thumbnails for your own content?
So the topics that we always choose are genuine topics that we want to make, with an occasional difference, like with those cardboard hacks. That was just a stupid video. It got millions of views, but that's always the case. But there are certain elements within each video that we don't really like. Like for instance, I really like to do stuff about visual storytelling, but you can't you can't do a snappy video edits, do the Mr. Beast style thing about visual storytelling, because if there's a thing about building up tension and slow, slidings, you can't do that in a YouTube video. And those are things that I really hate, because that's what filmmaking is about eventually. So we are limiting ourselves oftentimes. And I do feel like with every single video that we publish, that it's not 100% what we want to make. And I've never, until now, I've never been proud about anything that I've made so far. I mean, I know that I made some good things.
That's a very tough critic.
But also, I feel I haven't been proud about something yet. Where I really feel proud about, yes, this was a great video, and I feel so good about it. That has not happened yet.
What do you feel like that would be? What would make Jordy proud? What would make yourself proud as a creator?
He's a millennial, so nothing. Our generation has been beaten down our entire lives, so we'll never be good enough.
As a comedian in the U.S., Jenny Zagrina said, is the fact that Gen Z just like rise from the ashes of COVID and took over. So like, what would you feel like would make you, really happy for the content you create?
First and foremost, not a YouTube video. it would be a short film. Like I said before, I love to make short films. And if I can just choose in life, whatever I do, if I were to be a millionaire, I'd just make short films all the time. And I would keep doing that until I made a short film that I'm proud of. Like that is something where I feel that I can still grow in and make something that I feel good with. And with every short film, I do feel like I'm learning new things and I'm making it better and better each time. But with a YouTube video, I can't. But that's personal, because you're always doing it for the sake of the algorithm. You're always tweaking your video in terms of that.
Doing all the tutorials that you do, are you ever looking for one where you're specifically trying to teach yourself something that you think would help you for your next film?
With the short films, you mean?
Well, no, like if you have an idea for your next short film and you're going out there and you specifically want to get this kind of feeling or this kind of shot or anything like that, do you then kind of go to the team and say like, hey, let's do a tutorial where we can learn to create this, because I want to know how to do that the next time I'm going to do something for myself?
Interesting. No, we haven't really done that. Like, we haven't really done it like that. What we oftentimes do is make a short film and then after that do some tutorials about how we did certain things within that short film.
Yeah.
But I haven't really, that's interesting. Like before making a short film, doing a tutorial about something so that you can learn as well about it. That's a good thing. Yeah.
Well,
I'm gonna write that.
write that down. So Jordy, tell us a little bit about Cinecom and why you started it and what it's become today.
So I've always had a great passion for teaching as well for filmmaking, and that's where Cinecom kind of started, with making tutorial videos online about everything filmmaking, VFX, camera, lighting, sound, all of that. And we've grown over the years. We're now with a team of 5 people. We actually have 2 channels right now. And with 5 people, we're doing this full time. And that's still what we're focusing on the educational part, but also making that education fun. Like we always make jokes, we're laughing, and we make that education fun. That's what Cinecom stands for, I think. That's what Cinecom stands for.
So with the algorithm being our boss, and we have to always cater to what people want, what the internet wants, this kind of stuff. It's not always fun, but are you happy with what the company has actually become as a whole?
Yes, most definitely. I never expected that Cinecom would grow this big. I was happy at the time where I was able to do this full time, and it even grew beyond that. Now we're with a team, and every day I get to wake up and just fool around in a big studio and just make videos, do creative stuff every single day, and that is something that I love doing. Even though that we have to fight the algorithm and we don't always like what we're doing, I'm definitely proud of what I have accomplished with the business. And I hope to continue doing this for as long as possible and just finding my creative side more with Cinecom. I think that is something that I'm going to have to focus on for the next 5 years.
Awesome.
Jordy, we really appreciate you being on the show today. It really means a lot to get your perspective as a really successful YouTube creator with over 2.5 million followers. We think that the insight you gave today was actually really valuable for not only our audience, but your audience as well, and where we see ourselves in the future. So as a saying that you kind of say at the end of your videos, we want to say thank you for watching and stay creative. And we hope to see you guys on the next one.
Thank you for having me, guys. Thank you.
Thank you, Jordy.
Peace.